Freddy Krueger. Nightmare Reawakened. I didn't believe the stories about Freddy Krueger. To me, he was just an urban legend, a name parents used to scare their kids. But when my friends dared me to explore his old house, I couldn't back out. The place was falling apart, graffiti on the walls, broken furniture, and the smell of mold. Megan found the basement door, and before we could stop her, she was halfway down. We followed, flashlights cutting through the darkness. The basement felt wrong. The air was icy, and claw marks covered the walls. There was an old boiler in the corner, and near it Megan found a glove, worn leather with sharp metal blades. She slipped it on, laughing, but her smile faded fast. "I swear something's watching us," she muttered. We didn't stay long. That night, when I went to bed, I dreamed of a dark hallway. I was running, but it never ended. Behind me, I heard it, a sharp, metallic screeching. When I turned, I saw him, his burned face, his wide-brimmed hat, the claws on his glove, dragging sparks as they scraped the walls. I woke up gasping for air, my heart racing. But then I froze. The sound was still there, faint but real, scraping outside my room. The dreams didn't stop. Each night they grew worse, more vivid, more real. It wasn't just me anymore. Megan woke up screaming one morning, clutching her arm. She said Freddy had chased her through a burning playground. When she pulled back her sleeve, we saw it, a red, blistered burn running up her forearm. "How is that even possible?" Jake asked, his voice shaking. None of us had an answer. We started digging into Freddy Krueger, the man behind the nightmares. He wasn't just an urban legend. He was real, a child killer who was burned alive by the parents in our town. Somehow, when Megan picked up that glove in his basement, we must have triggered something. The glove was his. And now, so were our dreams. We tried everything to stay awake, guzzling coffee, blasting music, even pinching ourselves when our heads started to droop. But Freddy didn't need much. He was patient, waiting for the moment one of us slipped. One night I jolted awake, heart pounding. My room was dark, except for the faint glow of the mirror across from my bed. At first I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, but as I sat up, I saw the words carved into the glass, jagged and dripping. "You're next." I froze, my breath caught in my throat. And then I saw it, a shadow, faint but unmistakable, standing behind me in the mirror. His claws tapped slowly on the glass, one by one. We were running out of options. Freddy was getting stronger, and the lines between dreams and reality were starting to blur. Megan suggested we take shifts staying awake, but none of us were holding up well. Coffee only worked for so long, and even the smallest blink felt like an invitation for him to strike. Jake was the first to slip. He fell asleep while we were researching Freddy's past. At first we thought he was just exhausted, but then he started thrashing, his face contorted in terror. "Jake, wake up!" I shouted, shaking him, but he didn't budge. He screamed, his voice raw and desperate before going completely still. His body was cold, lifeless. We sat in silence, staring at each other, afraid to say what we all knew. Freddy had killed him, in his dreams, but for real. Megan was determined to fight back. She found an article about Freddy's glove, the one she'd picked up in the basement. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a connection to him, a way to weaken him. But there was a catch. "We have to go into his world," she said, her voice trembling. "It's the only way to stop him." The thought alone made my stomach churn. Facing Freddy in his nightmare realm felt like suicide. But what choice did we have? He was coming for us, awake or asleep. That night, as I sat in the dark, trying to keep my eyes open, I heard a faint scraping sound. It was coming from the walls. He was already here, waiting for us to close our eyes. We couldn't outrun him anymore. The only way to end this was to face Freddy in his own world. Megan was convinced the glove could hurt him, but it meant deliberately falling asleep, deliberately walking into his nightmare. We sat together in a circle, holding hands as if that would protect us. One by one, we drifted off. When I opened my eyes, we weren't in my room anymore. We were standing in a warped version of our town, but it was all wrong. The sky was blood red, the buildings twisted and burning. Freddy's laughter echoed everywhere. "Welcome to my world," his voice boomed. He didn't attack right away. He toyed with us, pulling us into our worst fears. I saw my dad, the way I'd found him after he died, but his face was twisted, mocking me. I couldn't move. I was frozen in terror. Megan snapped me out of it, grabbing my arm and dragging me forward. "Keep moving!" she yelled. She was holding the glove like it was her lifeline. But Freddy was everywhere, taunting us, driving us into corners. One by one, he picked us off. First, Sarah vanished into a pit of flames. Then Mark pulled into shadows by clawed hands. It was just Megan and me now. Freddy cornered us in a collapsing room, his claws scraping along the walls, sparks flying. "You think you can beat me?" he sneered, stepping closer. Megan tightened her grip on the glove. "We're not afraid of you," she said, though her voice shook. Freddy laughed, his burnt face twisting into a grin. "Oh, you will be." It was just Megan and me now. Freddy had us trapped in a fiery pit, his laughter echoing like a thunderstorm. The walls around us shifted and groaned, dripping with molten metal. His burned face twisted into a grin as he raised his clawed glove. "This is where it ends," he growled, stepping closer. Megan clutched Freddy's glove, the one she'd brought with us. "Distract him!" she yelled, her voice cracking. I didn't have time to think. I shouted at Freddy, forcing myself to face the memory he'd been tormenting me with. My dad's death. Freddy's taunts had been relentless, using my guilt and fear against me. "You can't hurt me anymore!" I screamed, stepping forward. My heart raced, but I didn't back down. "You're nothing but a monster!" Freddy's attention snapped to me, his grin fading as he lunged. That split second was all Megan needed. She charged at him, plunging his own glove deep into his chest. Freddy roared, his body convulsing as cracks split across his skin. The ground beneath us crumbled, and everything around us exploded into light. His screams were deafening, drowning out everything else. When I opened my eyes, I was back in my bed. The room was eerily quiet, and for a moment, I thought it was over. But then I saw it. The glove, the one Megan had used, was lying on the floor beside me. And in the mirror, words were scrawled in jagged crimson letters. "See you soon."